Hello all. In the previous video session we have discussed about the basic syntax used for writing stored procedures, and in this session we will discuss about different type of parameters used inside this stored procedures. Okay, so we have three types. There is input parameter, output parameter, and input output parameter. Okay, and for representing input parameter we use the keyword in. Okay, so it basically serves as the inputs to the procedure. If we don't specify any parameter type, it will be by default taken as the input parameter. Okay, and its life will be only inside what our procedure. Okay, we cannot pass the value or the pass the value of input parameter to the calling function or to the place where it is called. Okay, in case of output parameters, it is represented by using the keyword out, and it serves as the outputs from the procedure. Okay, so if we want to retrieve some data from the procedure, since it doesn't have any return statement, we simply use output parameters. Okay, and using this output parameters we can retrieve data to the place where this particular is called. Okay, and then we have input output parameters represented by in out keyword, and here the input output parameter will serve as both the input and the output. Okay, now we'll see an example for input parameter. Again, here in the inside the parenthesis of the procedure we will be giving the keyword in, and if this keyword is not given, then also by default n is taken as an input parameter. Okay, so this is to what pass an integer and then print that integer, and here first we'll change the delimiter, then we'll write the procedure, and inside the parenthesis we will mention in, then name of the variable and its type. Okay, and when this particular function is called, this 10 will be printed. Okay, so this is the procedure that we were discussing. So it will, by using this procedure we can pass a value and it will print that particular value. Okay, so I will press the run button, and if I type show procedure status, it should, yeah, so this print number is created. Okay, print number procedure is created. Okay, now to call that particular procedure we are using called print number of 10, and if I run this we will simply get the value that I have passed. Okay, if I pass 1, then I will get 1. Okay, so this is our input parameter. Before discussing about input output parameter, we should first mention about variables. So to declare variables we will be using the keyword declare, and to initialize the values we will be using default. And once the variables are defined, the variables can be assigned values using either set statement or select into statement. So the select into statement is used when we want to store data from a table to a variable. Okay, then in case of accessing local variables, the local variables can be accessed by name from other statements within the same procedure without using any @. Okay, so like C programming language, if we want to access the local variable inside the procedure, we can simply use its name. Okay, but if we want to access a local variable outside of the procedure, then we have to use the @. Okay, so this @ is very useful when we are using output parameter or input output parameters, where we can output the values using this output parameter. Now going on to example of output parameters, again a function sum of two numbers is created here, and it actually finds sum of two numbers. Okay, so here we have n1 and n2, which is input parameter, and out, which is an output parameter. Okay, so inside this procedure body we have written select n1 plus n2 into s. So first it will add n1 and n2, and then it will be substituted to the variable s. Okay, now to call this procedure we are using the call statement. So it's called sum of two num, and inside parentheses we have passed 10, 20, which are the two numbers, and then at the rate of val. So now here this val will be referring to this s. So now these two numbers are added and will be stored in s, which is referred by this. So if we write select at the rate of val, it will simply print the value that is inside this s. Okay. So this is how we use this output parameter. So using this output parameter, we can find certain result inside the procedure, and then we can pass it to the variable that we are writing here. Okay. And in case of output parameter or input output parameters, we will be writing this at the rate. Okay. So now we will just go and see how this program works. Okay, so this is the procedure, and if I press this run button, it will be created. Let's see, show procedure status, and sum of two num procedure is created, and to run this, I'm just going to call this statement that is called sum of two numbers 10, 20, at the rate of val, and then to print the value inside val, I have given select at the rate of val, and if I run this, I will get 30 as the result. Okay, and if I put 10 and 30, then I will get result as 40. Okay. Now next one is input output parameters of stored procedure, that is variables or parameters which can act as both input and output parameter. Okay, so for example, here we are demonstrating the absolute value. So inside this absolute value we have INOUT or input output parameter, which is n, and here if n is less than 0, then n value of n is set to minus n, so that always n will contain positive value. Okay, and here since this n is the input as well as the output variable, we have to initialize, or we have to initially set the value of n that we are passing. Okay, again here I have given n, and here instead of n, if I want, I can give some name like num, etc. Okay, for simplicity I have just given set n equal to minus 10, and then call absolute value of at the rate of n. So this function is called, and the value will be passed, and it will be evaluated, and the result will be again present here. So if I print select at the rate of n, it will print the value that is inside n. Okay, so you'll just see how this program works. So this is the procedure to find absolute value of a number, and here we are passing an input output parameter. Okay, so if I run this, okay, the procedure is created, and if I run show procedure status, okay, we'll see, yeah, the absolute value procedure is created. And now to run this procedure, we'll initially set the value of n as 10. Okay, and we will call the absolute value function by passing this output parameter, input output parameter, because it acts as both input and output, and then to print the value present in n, we simply use the select at the rate n statement. Okay, so and if I run this, I'll simply get 10. Okay, so here if I want, I can simply use the num. Okay, so the name in procedures parameter list and the actual argument or actual parameter can be different, then also it will work. Okay, if I give minus 20, then also it will print 20. Okay, positive 20, again it will print 20. Okay, so this is how it works. Okay, so now this is an example which is actually interacting with the database. So this procedure is to find physician's first name when ID is given. Okay, so ID is an input parameter and first name is the output parameter. Okay, so in ID and out first name. Okay, so here create procedure, then the name of the procedure, then the type of parameter, name of the parameter, data type of the parameter, then again output parameter, name of the parameter, that is first name, and then type of that particular data type of that particular parameter, that is varchar. Then we have the begin and end, then these two dollar signs simply known as that is the end of the procedure, and inside that we will be writing select physician underscore f name from physician, where physician ID is equal to this particular ID, and the value that we fetch, that is phy underscore f name, will be stored in the variable first name. Okay, and which is actually the output parameter. Okay, and then we will change the delimiter back to semicolon, and to call this we have used get underscore phy underscore f name of, then ID is 3 and the output parameter is at the rate of f name. Okay, so after running this procedure, if I pass 3, then in this particular statement we will fetch the physician f name of the physician with physician ID as 3, and it will be stored in this particular variable first name, which is an output parameter. And if we give select at the rate of f name, we will simply get the value that is stored inside this f name. Okay, so remember about these three types of parameters used in stored procedure: input parameter, output parameter, and input output parameter. Okay, thank you.